Guys, happy Monday. We are back with yet another Instagram Live, and Eric, my husband, and I are going to go live this evening to essentially talking about supporting your spouse through the holiday season and talking about ways that you are able to support your spouse, kind of like communication, how we handle the holidays, just to make sure that, we're on the same page and the same team together as husband and wife to make sure that we don't just like get through the holidays, we actually enjoy it too. So I will invite him in and we will get this party that because you just never fucking know. So, so I am accepting him, and so we'll see if Instagram likes me. Yo, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Sick. Nice posing room.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if anybody recognizes
Yeah,
it.
I love that. I love that. That's so funny. Enjoyed having dinner with you like 20 seconds ago, so that was a lot of fun.
It was great. Long time no see.
Um, so we have been together for 10 years, which means almost 11 years come January, which means you have seen a lot of my worst, but now you also get to kind of like enjoy my best when it comes to how we handle the holidays together. And I think it'd be really great to talk about kind of like the evolution of not only our relationship, but also like how we have gotten through to also now making the most of the holiday season.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of interesting because we were high school sweethearts. I think a lot of people know that, but we also are from the same hometown.
True.
So we kind of gradually dipped our feet into like doing holidays
Hmm.
together. Like, you know, the first holiday season that actually came across, the first like Christmas season that came across, we were dating,
Hmm.
but it was like, I was doing my family's holiday
Right.
and I brought Ashley along,
Hmm.
and she was doing her family's holiday and she brought me along. So yeah, we kind of gradually transitioned to the whole, hey, we're married now, we do the stuff together, um, and that we, playing with our families like that.
Absolutely. And obviously, we've had to navigate between like my episodes with eating disorders and kind of like essentially tiptoeing around me and my attitude and my issues around like different foods, the gyms being closed, struggling with exercise addiction. But now, since we are adults and since I am no longer struggling with those types of tendencies, we now actually get to host Thanksgiving. And rather than it being like such a huge stress of like preparing food and stuff like that, it's actually a joy. And I think this is the 6th year now that we're doing it, and we like always get hyped
It's
for
like
it now.
my favorite thing now. Like it's like Thanksgiving has become my favorite holiday. It wasn't when I was a kid, but it is now because I love doing Thanksgiving together with you.
I do too. I really do too. So I think it'd be really good to talk about ways that we have, again, kind of switched the mindset of, oh, we just got to get through the holidays to how do we make the most of it? And I would love to hear from you, kind of your perspective on how we have made such a monumental shift on how that's improved not only our marriage, but obviously within that, our communication skills.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple things that we've really improved on. Like, I think one of the main things is that we're better at knowing what is important during the holidays, especially to each other, right? We're a little bit more focused on making sure that there is time with family, right? I think that was one of the big shifts for you, which was focusing a little less on food and a little bit more on family. And then one of the shifts for me, one of the big shifts for me, was focusing less on, um, being sort of the son of my family and
Mhm.
focusing more on being like your husband and the head of a new household. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
No,
I think those
that's
are the two big ones.
yeah, no, I think that's great perspective because obviously those are different. Like I talk about wearing different hats with my clients, and obviously to go from like just wearing the hat of the son to now wearing like the bigger hat of the husband, and then obviously making sure that like our family, grows and gets stronger while also still respecting like family traditions and other people's schedules. That is very important to kind of solidify. And obviously with that, the shift in priorities with what you and I value in our marriage and in our family. And I think a lot of the times that bodybuilders get stressed out with their spouse because their spouse doesn't understand their needs as a bodybuilder. And your spouse, it's not your spouse's job to agree with how you body build. It's their job to understand, but it's your job to take care of business and do what you need to do. So, in the context of bodybuilding, if you're in your off season, you need to be flexible with how you check off your boxes. That does not mean that you neglect your boxes, but it does require you to become creative and to not be consumed with quote unquote perfectionism, all or nothing, black and white thinking, because not only does that not serve you, January through October, but especially when things like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's comes, that's really going to fuck you over, right? It's going to fuck you hard. So understanding and being creative with how you check your boxes and what are the most important things for you as a bodybuilder, and then conveying that to your spouse. That way, you guys can come together as a team rather than, play Rock'em Sock'em Robots and essentially create even more stress and opposition.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree completely. I think probably one of the best exercises to getting that done, to getting on the same page, is doing a short list,
Mhm.
right? Listing out and actually numbering out the things that are the most
Yep.
important, right? They don't have to be in a particular order, but like you think about it like your non-negotiables,
Mhm.
right? Like, you know, if you're in prep, it's number one, you have to hit, I would guess I would
Everything.
say your
When it's in
meals.
prep, you have to hit everything.
I mean, but you have to hit everything that's important, right? But not everything is going to be the exact same during the holidays as it would be for the rest of the year, right? Like so your sleep is important, right? So you got to get to bed on time. Your food is important, so you got to get your food, right? But like if you have a particular tea at a certain time in the morning and you don't have that during the holidays because you're somewhere else, is that really important, right? Just as a throwaway example, you know
Right.
what I mean?
Like off season again is very different as a bodybuilder compared to contest prep, because in contest prep it's, I mean, regardless of where you're at in your bodybuilding, season as a bodybuilder, it is your job to convey what are the most important things. When it is in contest prep, it is a different hat. It doesn't mean you whine and complain and make everyone else miserable. You have a job to do and standards to uphold that you need to get done, so make it happen, but you still need to communicate that to your spouse, especially when it comes to like schedule, travel, all that stuff, and then especially your family. Because again, it's not their job necessarily to like get it or agree, but like it's just out of sheer respect for other people's times and their schedules too, especially when you are looking at the grand macroscope of family time.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely in prep, you're going to have a longer list of things that are important, right?
Hmm.
But it's still an exercise I think is worthwhile for, anyone to go through. Because that helps the focus too, right? Because I think it's a great exercise because of two reasons. For one, for the person who is the bodybuilder, it helps them to trim out the stuff that's not necessary that they're going to need to be flexible on,
Hmm.
right? So it's like, how many of these, if you normally do 150 things a day for your bodybuilding, how many of those are actually important to be done during the holidays,
Hmm.
right? And how many can you give up, you know? So
Right.
it helps to focus the bodybuilder on their flexibility. Whereas the spouse, you might not know what's important, right? So it helps to focus you on like, oh, this is where they need support. So this is the things that I shouldn't expect them to change, or this is the things that like maybe they need me to help out with something like that, right? Like maybe they need me to make time to do some grocery shopping or something else to actually make this work. Because these are the important things that we need to be able to fit in.
Hmm. I think a big aspect is like from the bodybuilder standpoint, like understanding how the spouse can help, and then conversely, how the bodybuilder can help the spouse, right? Because it's not just one sided. It shouldn't be all about the bodybuilder making sure they get their meals, their cardio, their training, their steps, whatever. Like the bodybuilder needs to fucking do that because you're an adult. But when you're in a relationship, you're both adults. Like I want to make sure my needs are met, but I also need to make sure that you, as my husband, your needs are met too, which is why like we do come together and we talk about priorities and orders of importance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about like what am I willing to compromise on, or maybe what do I need help with versus what I don't need help with. So for example, when we travel up to Ohio, what we have done in the past is we have stayed with my family. Now why? My mom has a health issue. It's nice to be able to help out, but also they have a second fridge. Now, in terms of bodybuilders are probably like, what? Your family has two fridges? Yeah, we do have two fridges. It's not that they're wealthy, it's just they have two refrigerators. So for me, it's a fucking paradise. I don't feel like a burden. So therefore, I can prep my meals, buy my groceries, and have everything that I need to be successful. And you're willing to essentially give up the ability to not stay with your parents that only has one refrigerator and is a little bit further out of the way to the gym that I would like to train at. But what does that mean for me as your wife? It means I want to make sure we set aside more intentional quality time with your parents because I realize you are giving me a gift of the space that I need to be successful in bodybuilding.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean that's fair. I mean I come with my like important list of things to me too, like you know, like Christmas dinner with my parents.
Yep.
Like that's the thing that I ask for every year because it's a big thing in our household,
Hmm.
right? It's like this is my number one. When we go for the holidays, this absolutely has to happen, right? And Ashley usually takes it as I think almost every one of the past years we've taken that as a free
Yeah,
meal, which has been really nice.
absolutely.
Um,
Because like again, I haven't been in contest prep, and two, it's like I know this matters to you. And so when we were talking about what we wanted to talk about for this live, we gave the you gave the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas movie and
yeah.
cookies. So it's like, let's say like you guys have a tradition in your family that you like to uphold. It means something to you, whether you did it as a little kid or maybe you did it in your like later adult years with your family and you like to watch, let's say, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Frosty the Snowman or my family, it's fucking watching the Charlie Brown Christmas. Like that to me is special
Mm,
to me. But it's like if it's special to you that you're watching this family movie and eating Christmas cookies, is it important that your spouse, your significant other, is eating the Christmas cookies? Or is it more important that they're with you, fully present, watching the movie, not dicking around on their phone, not like making jokes, like actually spending good quality time together? Because at the end of the day, like I would be very, very hard pressed to find that someone would be like, yes, you have to be eating the fucking like, sugar cookies that are in the shape of Santa Claus.
right.
Like, no, they want you to be present and they more importantly is they want to share something so special to them to someone who is so special to them with you. And I think that is so valuable, so overlooked in relationships.
Yeah. Getting to the root of why a particular thing is actually important, right?
Absolutely.
And then doing it together with a good attitude. I mean, like honestly, that's the real thing. If
Mm.
I think like when we go together and we do things for the other person with a good attitude, it always makes things go about a million times smoother. Because I think that's all that we really want from one another
Mhm.
is just to be um, when we're give like when I give something to you or when you give something to me, we want the giver, the person who is giving, to be doing it happily, right? I think
Exactly.
that's maybe probably the most important thing that we do for each other.
Right. Is like you want to give with a happy heart, but then you also want to receive with a happy
Mm,
heart. And that is sometimes difficult too, because a lot of people they don't like asking for help or receiving things because they feel like a burden. And that defeats the purpose of gift giving, whether it is a physical manifestation of your love or the gift of quality time, the gift of proper communication. Like it is important to understand that you cannot give a gift if the person is not receiving it.
mm,
Right. So when it's like when you ask for help, receive the help. Knowing that this is person has been giving it to you willingly, and that also boils down to like just having good communication and having the same priorities and the same boundaries within your communication styles and making sure that the person isn't just hearing you, they're listening to you. It is an active participation on both ends. And so again, it is so important to come together, especially before the actual holiday plans commence. So that way you can schedule properly and then
mm.
talk about like what are the importance of maybe each family function in terms of like how long, what gets accomplished, whatever, just so that way, like, you're both on the same page and you're not disappointed.
Yeah,
Because that's a big thing. It's like people feel let down in relationships because they didn't handle a situation well. But if the expectations were never spoken about, that's also unfair.
yeah. You got to do a tier list of all of the holiday activities before you
S
go.
tier
Yeah,
to
yeah.
fucking F
S
tier.
tier. S tier is baking cookies with grandma.
Oh, grandma's goaded, right? Absolutely. But no, that it is really important to like, yeah, we joke about S tier, but like it is really important to talk about your priorities and how they overlap and kind of like you trim the tree of like branches that don't mesh or are dead. You still need to trim like what doesn't mesh with you guys during the holidays
Yeah.
because especially if you're not hosting or you're not in your own element, there are some things that it just doesn't make sense to go to in terms of just like losing your head, right? So like making sure that you like map out a game plan so you can do all the things that are important to you together. And a lot of that comes with like, again, understanding that the bodybuilder has things that they need to do, but at the same time, not sacrificing like just checking off boxes for something that's really important to the other person, i.e., likely spending time with family, or I know for you, a big one was spending time with friends too.
Yeah. That always is a big one. It's a hard one to fit in during the holidays too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when it comes to kind of communication as a whole, how has, in your opinion, how has it changed for the better? So that way, again, we're kind of acting as a team through the holidays.
I think one of the biggest things that has helped to us to improve is that we're better with conflict
Hmm.
now when we disagree about things, right? Because I think we all always were pretty decent at saying, "Hey, these are the things that are important to me."
Hmm.
Maybe that's what we struggled on with in the early years, but I think the thing we struggle on after that is like, well, when something is important to me, but it clashes directly with something that's important to you,
Hmm.
like how the hell do we handle that, right? And we've gotten a lot better about that. Throughout the recent years, right? So, explaining why
Hmm.
it's important, right? And more importantly, listen to the other person when they're explaining why, right? Because the example that my mom always gave was like if you've got two people who want an orange, right? They can either cut it in half or they can talk about it, and one might want to eat the orange and the other might want the zest, right? And you might be able to work it out where it works both ways. That's the example that she would always give. But like, sometimes we
I like
find
that.
those, yeah, and we were like, oh wait, it's we can actually make this work and it's fine because the important thing here doesn't clash with the important thing here.
Hmm.
Um, and then sometimes it's like, well, this is gonna suck, but one of us just gives to the other, right? And sometimes that happens, But we talk through it and we make sure that we're both good with it, and that's all that it
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. And I know a big thing has been honestly, yes, like you have grown as well, but in terms of like mentally, I have grown a lot further because I was more broken, right? I needed to actually fix how I thought about things and my perspective and my mindset around not only how I bodybuild, but how I lived my life, because a lot of the times it was ruled out of fear and anger and restriction, which is why the holidays caused me so much mental stress and why I caused myself so much mental stress because of how I viewed the holidays. Again, missing the point of really deep down what they meant versus like just focusing on the really hyper fixating on like the food and the change
Yeah,
and the disruption in structure, because someone with not only eating disorder type tendencies but then also severe OCD like I have, interruptions like the what holidays bring can be catastrophic because there is lack of control, and when you don't have control you tend to spiral, you tend to fidget, you tend to panic because it is unfamiliar and it is new. So a lot of it really was owning up to the fact that I needed to get my shit together, so that way I stopped like the idea of, oh, I fucking hate Christmas, I just got to get through the holidays, because like that is not a way to live life,
yeah,
and especially not a way to make your partner's life either.
yeah. And I mean, I definitely appreciate all the work that you've done on that because it has made our lives significantly better.
Mhm.
I think one of the big things for me is when you were going through that, it was tough because you would have 80 things that were like these are non-negotiables, these are
Everything is
absolute.
important, so therefore none of
Right,
it was.
right. And in my mind, I'm like, what the do I? Why do you need this? This doesn't matter at all. But what I was failing to recognize was that what you actually needed was comfort, right? And you found comfort in that control and in that routine. And the thing that I could have focused on at that time, and what I eventually learned to focus on, was making you feel more
Mhm.
comfortable meant that uh, you, life was more flexible, basically, right? Like you wouldn't have a list of 80 things that were all important to you if you
Mhm.
were just comfortable and had the five things that were actually important.
Mhm.
So getting to that point was some growth for me too.
Yeah, but to caveat that, it's really hard to support someone when that person doesn't know how they need supported.
Yeah,
Mostly because, like, when you are in that state of mind, like, if 80 things are important, there's an issue of priorities and there's an issue of control. Like, that's the actual problem. But those are much more difficult to work on mentally, to let go of that control and to let go of that, like, toxic mindset that it's so much easier to just think, oh, all these fucking 80 things are important because it's easier for me to tackle those because I tackle them every single day. Versus like when you are disrupted in your daily routine and in your daily life with the hustle and bustle of the holidays, it can send you into hyperdrive and make like every little ask just a mild inconvenience where you don't even want to be like with your family because, oh, you need to be doing all these other things for either your health and fitness goals or your bodybuilding, and it doesn't need to be like that. It's not that you can't spend time with your family or you have to be a bodybuilder. It's like you have to learn how to wear both hats. And again, depending upon where you're at in your bodybuilding, career or year, depending upon how you want to look at it, kind of dictates the flow and the fluidity that you need to develop. Contest prep, totally different thing. You need to do what you got to do. You signed up for it. But especially in the
Yeah,
off season, like learning to be adaptable, learning to not go with the flow in the sense of just being okay with chaos, because like that makes things 100 times more stressful in my opinion. But learning to just be okay with making decisions in the moment, because even though if you can have the perfect plan, the perfect schedule, have it fucking color coordinated on your shared Google Calendar that husband and wives have, things pop up, things happen. So as a bodybuilder, what are your controllables? You can pack meals, you can pack water, you can have a gym nearby, you can get steps, you can have warm clothing, but it's like even if you have all the perfect variables in line, life is still messy and chaotic in its own way. You need to be able to be adaptable and not lose your fucking head.
yeah,
Because then, in the reality, in the grand scheme of things, it's not like the one variable that you didn't check off because something horrible happened or something out of your control happened. It's because you lost your goddamn mind in the process.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's for sure, for sure. I mean, the phrase that always comes up for me is plans do not survive contact with the enemy.
Yeah.
Right. You can plan as much as you want, but
Mhm.
when you actually get down to doing it, it's never going to go exactly how you thought it would. No matter how good you are at planning. And then the other thing is a thing that I forgot, so I don't remember. So now you get to say
No,
something.
it's fine. I think at the end of the day, like the holidays can be stressful. Like whether you are single, whether you are with a girlfriend, boyfriend, whether you are in a new marriage, an older marriage, mid marriage, whatever you want to call our marriage, or especially when you have children or you have brothers and sisters and they have kids, right? The bigger your family, the likely the more complex planning and scheduling and travel is. Absolutely. I don't want to diminish that. But just because something is challenging and difficult doesn't mean it's unnecessarily hard. It is how you view it. It is your perspective of the situation. Like like we talked about kind of earlier on, like doing it with a grateful heart, doing it with a happy spirit. Like those things are very, very important when it comes to just like viewing something that could potentially be stressful and be like, yeah, like I can understand why that might be a little overwhelming at first, but we'll figure it out. Like the ability to recognize that you two can come together and figure things out. There might be a little compromise, there might be some give and take, there might be some give and receive, but at the end of the day, like that person is your partner,
Yeah,
right? Like Eric and I use the term battle buddies when things are difficult. Like he needs to be in the trenches with me when we're at war. In the same time, when wartime's over and it's peace, he gets to be my adventure buddy, right? Again, wearing different hats within the relationship, but coming together, still knowing that you're a team. And if something happens where you guys disagree, it's not about who wins the argument, because if that's how you go into battle, thinking about who's going to win and who's going to lose, you both end up
yeah,
losing, right? So it's like understanding that, like, the other person has thoughts, feelings, and ideas that likely are going to differ from yours, and that's okay, but not worry about being right, worry about being heard, and then worry about listening.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tough, but you can't go into those conversations with an agenda. You got to know what's important to you,
Hmm.
right? But you can't go in thinking like these are the things that will happen, and I will convince them that that's how it's going to work. You know?
Hmm. Absolutely. And then obviously, like, at the end of the day, it really just boils down to like communicating effectively. Like, I know that everyone talks about communication being key, and it's not that communication is key, because I can talk to you about some pointless ass shit, and you can talk to me about the moon. And that's communication, but it's about effective communication, especially when you're working on problem solving or you're trying to understand like what you guys need to do to move the ship forward. Like, we talk all the time about coaching, about how you guys work together as a team, because it is a relationship dynamic that has an end goal. so did your relationship, so does your marriage. Now, without like being like too armchair psychologist about like what is a healthy and successful marriage, like we're talking about in the scope of the holidays. So it kind of still boils down and bleeds into other facets of the relationship as to what are the most important things to both of you. Like, what's important to him, what's important to me. Like, what are things that maybe ideally you'd like to do or like to see, but at the same time, like, if they don't get accomplished due to lack of time or resources, you know, it's not the end of the world. And again, just coming together, especially at the end of the day of a long, exhausting day with in-laws, with kids, whatever, that you guys remember that you guys like love each other, right? That everything that you guys are doing in your lives together, you guys get to do because like that's still a blessing too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, as always, the most important thing um, for a relation to set up a relationship to work well is to have the same
Mhm,
priorities, and then communication is how you get to those same priorities, right? Because you're never going to have the exact same thoughts about any situation about what's important and what's not.
mhm.
So communication is how you get there.
Exactly. And then obviously when it comes to especially the dynamic of being married to a bodybuilder, especially because you're a normal person, for lack of a better word, like you're Gen Pop, you like going to the gym, you
Gen
meal
Pop,
prep.
so you're
Gen
you
Pop,
filthy normie.
since you're a normal person. No, but like seriously, like because you are married to someone that is a bodybuilder that is very ferocious and aggressive with her goals and her ambitions, like you do a good job of supporting me, and I know I do a good job of supporting you because it boils down to like what we talk about to each other every single day. How can I love on you today? How can I support you today? It could be something as small as like, you know, some back rubs in between meetings. It could be something as big as, hey, I have a big day today. I have back-to-back meetings. Like, could you prepare lunch for me? Could you grill the chicken? Like, could you empty the dishwasher? Could you make the bed? Like, actually assuming additional responsibilities for this other person because they're lacking right now in time. So it's like, again, just effectively communicating to one another, and especially on the women's side, because I joked about this very early on in Eric and I's relationship where I was like, anticipate my needs. But like, that's so unfucking fair. Like you are an adult, you need to communicate your needs. Like you need to do that because the other person, even if they know you for years, they cannot anticipate your every single thought, feeling, and desire. You need to communicate that if it's something that's important to you. So it's like I used to get so frustrated with Eric where I was like, you know what I eat for meal one, or you know when I do this or that, why don't you have it ready? Or I would just like blow up at the smallest inconvenience because I do it every damn day. And in my mind, he sees me do it every damn day. So why doesn't he know that I need this every damn day? And what he told me, he's like, it's not that I don't notice you doing it, but I'm not paying attention to the precision at which you're doing it. He's like, I'm not paying attention to the little finite details of your life like you are.
Yeah,
He's like, I pay attention to what I need to do as well. And like that perspective was really helpful because he was right. I do my life every single damn day in the exact order that I do it, thinking that because I pay attention to him and how he does his life and do little odds and ends thing to make his life convenient, I was expecting the same like response. Like I was expecting him
yeah,
to love on me the way I love on him, not understanding that he's not going to do that because he didn't know, but then also he doesn't necessarily feel loved when I do it. It's not that he doesn't appreciate it, it's just not how he feels loved. And that was something I needed to work on. But again, it boiled down to communication
yeah,
too.
yeah. And that was a tough one because even if you had decided that like that was something that was important to you and that I needed to do, I would not have been able to. I really genuinely think that your level of intelligence with paying attention and noticing things, especially when multiple things are happening at one
Mhm.
time, is so much higher than mine,
I
right?
think
And
it's
I
higher
think
than
I remember,
than most people.
yeah,
It's an
and
ungodly level.
and I think I remember the way I explained it one time is like you needed help with something. It's something like wouldn't come apart. There was some I don't know. There was something that was broken, and you asked me to fix it. And you had been trying for like an
It's
hour, and
probably
I came up and just
the Ninja Creamy. If we're being honest, it was probably the
yeah,
Ninja Creamy.
I just like
Fuck that
five
machine.
seconds like fixed it right and walked away. And we were like, what the hell? And I was like, well, that's how I'm smart, right?
Yeah.
You're smart in that you can multitask and notice everything that's happening at once and log it all in your memory bank.
Hmm.
And I am smart where I can laser focus on one exact problem
Yeah,
and pick it apart very easily,
yeah,
right? And coming
yeah,
to that understanding, I think it took a minute for us, right? Because I
yeah,
would always be like, why can't you just fix this? Why do you need my help? I don't understand. This is simple. And you would be like, why don't you notice all of the things that I do every day
yeah,
and have them
yeah,
memorized? Like, I have your entire routine memorized. Like, sometimes you would tell me I would do something and you would be like, oh, yeah, you do that every day at 10 a.m. And I'm like,
yeah.
I,
Like I could tell you what he has for breakfast every single day, what he has for
I
lunch, what
do?
he has for dinner, what he has for snacks.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you like when he goes to the bathroom, how many cups of coffee, because I notice those things. I observe them.
Mm-hmm.
And while Eric, isn't just oblivious to my existence, he does not observe in that way. Like, it's not something that he notices, and especially, like, it's not something that he puts in his memory bank. That's just not how he's wired. But I expected him to have the same wiring and the same neural circuits that I do. And that's not fair. It's not fair
Yeah.
because one, he's a completely different, person than I am. But two, like, I also failed to realize that he had strengths that I lacked. And like that's so important to understand as well, because rather than like being mad at him for being wired differently, I can then be thankful that he is wired differently so we can get a more complete picture.
Yeah. And then you can start, that you get to get a chance to start playing like a team.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because like any coach will tell you that like every single player on his team has strengths and weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
but it's when you get the players together in the right positions with the right calls that you highlight all of their strengths, while in practice you work on those weaknesses. And relationships like coaching, like marriage, comes with the same territory.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Cool. If there's, and I know there's like not like a lot of people on this live, which is fine, but if you guys have questions, like feel free to ask questions based on like what we're talking about or even perspective on really anything relationship related as it pertains to the holidays. But even if it doesn't pertain to the holidays, that's fine too. But I do think it's really cool just how much we have grown, and especially me, 'cause again, like I said, like you had your own emotional maturing to do, but I had a lot more damage and a lot more baggage than you, which means I had a lot more to work on. And so like now, rather than like dreading the holidays and being like, oh, I fucking hate Thanksgiving and Christmas because now it's all these foreign foods. Dude, we're fucking Thanksgiving prepping in like July. I'll be like, turkey, cranberry, stuffing, and he'll be like, pecan pie. I want yeast rolls this year. It's like we literally like plan this shit so far out in advance. It's kind of silly, but like we get excited for it, and especially me, I don't dread it anymore.
Yeah. I got a new roasting rack for the turkey. It was the highlight of my day.
Dude, he got literally a new roasting rack. Like, he got some spices. Like, tomorrow I'm doing the pecan pie and the cranberry dressing. Like, it's stock day
Yeah.
tomorrow, so you get to go make some
It's stock
stock.
day.
It is stock day tomorrow. And
It's
then
stock
Wednesday
day.
is
It
going to
might be
be
spatchcock day
rolls.
tonight. We'll see. We'll see if the frozies,
You're not
if the turkey.
spatchcocking tonight,
Oh,
motherfucker. You have a
I
podcast to edit. I need to
might
go on a
do it. I
walk.
might do it after you go to bed.
You are
Do
not
some late night
you are
spatchcocking.
not spatchcocking the bird at 8 o'clock at night.
You don't know what I'm doing. You can't stop me. You'll be asleep.
Dude, it's like that one little kid that like pulled up the turkey neck of the bird. And she's like, I think it's a boy. And he's like, "Ugh." He's like retching. Mom, it's a penis. She's like, it's not a penis, it's the turkey neck. Jesus. All right, cool. I think we scared it off everyone. So think that was a good live. Appreciate your time, sir. Guys, if you're watching the replay on just supporting your spouse in the holidays, just remember, like, remember you guys are on the same team. Remember that it's not your family's job to like understand and like bend over backwards for your bodybuilding goals and ambitions. It's your job to make them happen. It's your job to communicate your needs, but also understand that you need to be fluid, you need to be adaptable because like it ain't always about you. It can't always be about
Yeah.
you. And I know this sport is very selfish. And in the context of the holidays, it's good to remind yourself that you're not the only one like that has, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But hopefully you guys picked up some good nuggies. Kid, I'll see you soon. Love you and
That's
shit.
the end. 5 seconds. I take a poop first, though. I'll see you
All right,
later.
cool. All right, peace.